Hello Internet, this video is the second of 3 videos on the new playlist T90, where I am showing you how to rebuild your T90 transmission. Now if you have not seen video 1, it's very important that you do so, and I'll put a card here above for your convenience. Now in this second video, we will be working on the input shaft and gear and building it, and then putting it in place, installing it. And then secondly, we go back to the lower cluster gear unit, otherwise known as the countershaft, and we're going to lift it up and we're going to put in the real shaft and push out the temporary shaft. And then finally, we will install what's called the oil collector. Keep watching. The third step for me is to build the drive gear shaft, otherwise known as the input shaft. And this is the shaft that basically sticks out from the front of the transmission. The clutch assembly would fit around this. So again, it fits right here. This is a new part. And the first thing we're going to do is put a splash washer on. And if you look at the splash washer, there's a slightly recessed side. So the outer edge is higher, then it recesses down. And on the back side, it's just the opposite, where it's lower on the outside, and then it comes up a little bit. So the recessed side basically cups the gear from the input shaft. So basically like that. So again, the cup side is here. This side here extends out a little bit on the inside, and that's how it fits. Okay, what I'm going to do now is tap down the bearing. I put a little bit of oil on it. It should tap down, and I'm going to do this. It's by unconventional, but I'm using parts that I'm not using that I replaced, and this lines up perfectly with the inside of the bearing there. And I'm simply going to tap around the edges and see if it goes down. So my idea of using the old gear from the old transmission had its limitations. It got it down to that point, but I can't go any further because it's sitting right here. So I should have done this to begin with. So I went to the hardware store, and this is 1.5 inch schedule 40, and it's just the right size, and I should be able to pound that down all the way now. Okay, there it is. All right, with the bearing pressed in place or hammered in place, and I mentioned before that this washer right here, that it was raised on one side and then cupped on the other, and the cup part, it cups around the gears, but where it's raised, what it does is there's a small gap now, just the thickness of that raise right here, and that allows oil to get in. So that is the purpose of that. Now I should be able to get the snap ring in place. There we go. Wasn't pretty, but it works. Okay, what we're recording now, and I have several camera angles here, is putting in the main gear shaft, and the main difficulty here is the oil collector. So it collects oil from the rotating lower cluster gear, and then it will collect oil and put it up onto the main gear. I believe that's how it works. And the best way that I found to do this is that you have to put the oil collector in place. So this gear, again, is all the way to the bottom. It's not in the correct location yet. And you simply put this over it like so. The longer part obviously is around the gears. And then you have to square this up and put it in place. But you have to then avoid the gears here touching. So you just have to, just not much clearance there, but it's like right there. So I'm just going to hold it in place. Easier said than done, really touchy. Okay, that's it. So what are called I think they're called the chevrons, these little tabs right here. The oil collector is behind it, so it should be just like that. Now I'm going to attach the oil collector. These are the original bolts. It's fine thread. And the kit, this part of the kit, came with some metal washers. I'm going to use them. The originals, I think, were copper, but I'll use these. And I'm also going to put some Permatex on the threads because it goes right into where the oil will be. Get started. So you can see it spins freely. The oil collector is not rubbing on anything. And that's exactly what we want. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do on this step is load the needle bearings in the main gear drive that hooks to the transmission. So these are larger needle bearings. There are 14 of them in the package. And again, I'll be using the assembly goo for this, which is designed especially for this. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of the grease here, spin it around. All right, there we go. Needle bearings are in place. Okay, part 4. Part 4 is returning to the lower cluster gears, also known as the countershaft. If you remember from part 2, we loaded the needle bearings and we put in the dummy shaft and we simply lowered it, let it sit at the bottom of the case. And then step 3, we worked on the input shaft. Well, part 4 is taking that lower cluster and basically putting in the real shaft. So this is the temporary shaft, and basically it was in there with the needle bearings, and I pushed in the real shaft. Now the problem is I had 2 camera malfunctions. This upper camera ran out of memory as I'm pushing it through. And secondly, my iPhone, which runs the sound, I have this device that splits the USB-C, and that device malfunctioned. And unfortunately, I could not export the video. I can see it on my iPhone, but I cannot export it. So I'm just walking you through what I did. I do have some footage from the inspection camera, which I'll show here in a second. But basically what I did, if this was the real shaft, I basically lifted up and I positioned the real shaft, and I was pushing it through, and it kind of got stuck halfway through. I couldn't push anymore. I didn't want to force anything. And so what I did, even though it's just the input shaft and the main gear is not in there, I just flipped the whole thing upside down, like so. And then with pushing the main shaft through, it just pushed through like butter. And that's the video that I have showing it. It was really easy. It worked really well. And then the last thing I did, once the temporary shaft was out and the shaft was in there, is that I tapped it with a hammer, both shafts, and then I put in the locking plate here. So it went really well. It worked well for step 4. And that ends the second video on this playlist of the T90 rebuild. Now the third and final video is parts 5 and 6. Part 5 is building the main shaft and inserting it. And part 6 is just wrapping things up. If you got any value at all from this video, please give me a like. It costs you nothing, but is a great value to me. And as always, have a great day.